Just before we get into the main episode, a quick message from a friend of On Farm recorded in her tractor cab.
Hello, my name is Katie Brisbane and I am a project coordinator for RET, the Royal Highland Education Trust. We work to give children a greater understanding of food, farming and the countryside. This year we have a focus on the journey of food, seeds and grains, highlighting all the great things produced by Scotland's soils. If you're a farmer or work in a rural business and you'd like to get involved, to volunteer or sponsor our work, we'd love to hear from you. We also have a huge range of educational resources on the website. If you know any teachers or educators who might appreciate them, you can find out more at www.red.org.uk.
Welcome to the On Farm podcast. I'm Anna Davis. I would love to get goats. I wonder if you could tell my husband through the medium of this podcast why it's so amazing to be the owner of goats.
Your husband's going to hate me. What's his name?
Willie.
I was very sceptical. The goats coming home were nothing to do with me, but I love them now. They aren't that far off having a dog, I would almost say.
Wow. Today's episode is effectively a kind of does what it says on the tin type episode, whereby we are telling the story of a farming family.
I am Joanna and I run the farm shop here at Farm Ness.
I am Donald. I help out in the farm shop, but I run the farm here at Farm Ness.
I've been following them on television and on social media, and I just wanted to hear their story. So this episode is dedicated to us sharing their story with you, and I hope you find it as interesting as I did.
The farm was already in our family, so I've just really taken it over. I always looked up to my dad and my uncle, who were the farmers here, so I enjoyed it and went into it.
Yeah. And you used to drive a tractor to school discos.
Once, yeah, I drove a tractor to school disco, yeah.
So it was a hit with the ladies.
It was, actually, it worked.
Well, it obviously worked with one particular lady. Joanna, have you been connected to farming all your life?
Oh, kind of. It's a big debate with us, isn't it? Donald says I'm not a farmer, but my dad is from a long-established farming family in the West Coast. We're from Lochaber. And so I grew up on a farm, but it had become a hobby farm by the time I was a child. My dad went to farming school in Cardiff-Lacalsh, and then he went to agricultural college in Aberdeen, and then he worked for the College of Agriculture, but he started doing discos at night and then eventually left farming completely to have pubs and nightclubs and kept the farm. So we still lived on the farm, but we didn't use it to make money at all. In fact, he rescued deer and red deer, and we'd live off the land. Donald's laughing at it, but we lived off venison and we grew all our own vegetables. We grew potatoes. We had hens, so we had eggs, and we'd swap food with local crofters, but we didn't make any money. But I thought I was a farmer. I'd never stepped foot on a commercial farm, and then I came to Donald's and I was just like, what is this? This is so stressful.
Work, and more work.
Is your dear dad still with us, Joanna?
Yeah, he is, yep.
Because I think I'd love to speak to him for the next podcast. I have never before met a farmer turned nightclub owner, and I suspect he might be the only one of his kind. It sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
It would be interesting, for sure.
He's a big character, yeah. I don't know, he's maybe going to be on This Farming Life as well. He might make an appearance.
Oh, good. Excellent. Right, well, I'll look out for that, and then I'll see if I can get him on the podcast. So I'd love to hear, I know because I've watched some of the programmes on TV, but not everybody will have seen that. So I'd love to hear about the variety of different activities that you have on the farm. I live on a farm and I love it, but we don't have a huge variety of activities. We have arable crops, and that's pretty much it. So I'd love to hear more from you about all of the different things that go on your farm and why they do. What is it about those activities that made you do them and continue to make you feel passionate?
So I would say we're predominantly a livestock farm, but we can also grow some malting barley, but we're definitely more of a livestock farm. So we have cows for beef production, and we've got sheep. Like I say, we can grow a small proportion of barley. We've also got a small haulage farm as well. And then we have started up farm shop, what are we going to call it, slash...
Well, hopefully soon a commercial kitchen.
Yeah.
And then we want to have it as a kind of educational outfit as well. So families come and see like some of the animals, or see lambing, or just like kind of seasonal events on the farm really is what we want to do. And we've got our farm shop, and then we want to have a commercial kitchen selling produce from the farm. So our own beef burgers and...
Yeah, we're doing that already. But cooked.
Takeaway foods from the farm.
Yes. And am I right in thinking that you're in a pretty good location for takeaway food and passing traffic? Where exactly are you located?
I was just about to try and get that in, yes.
You can give people the postcode if you want.
IV3 So we're located, you basically leave Inverness, capital of the Highlands, as it's called, and you head to Loch Ness, and we're like a mile and a half out of Inverness. So it just really made sense to try and do something, because Inverness has a population of about 60,000 now, I think.
70,000.
Is it 70? Oh, well.
Geography teacher,
I stand corrected. And it seems in fashion just now, the whole North Coast 500 thing.
Yeah, and our shop is right on the roadside of the 82. So
amazing.
At the moment, I mean, we're needing to get signs made. That is high on our to-do list, but people can just see the shop and they're like, oh, what's that? Because it's just so visible. The location's amazing.
Oh, sounds amazing. And probably stunning scenery and views as well, I imagine.
Oh, so nice. It looks right down the Great Glen towards Loch Ness. So it's wide and open and just hills.
Wonderful.
We farm the as you leave Inverness until you hit Loch Ness, we farm on the side of the canal and river. We farm all of the ground. So yeah.
So you grow barley right on the banks of Loch Ness, don't you, Donald?
We do. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's just you can just close your eyes and picture that, can't you? It's just stunning. So do you get a lot of your trade then from people who are effectively passing traffic, as well as people who come to you specifically as a destination?
Yeah, we get, well, I was saying today, our biggest passing trade at the moment is Skye and Drumnadrochit, which is a village on Loch Ness, and they all drive past the shop on the way to Inverness. Our other customers are kind of, if they follow the social media or they've seen us on the TV, and I guess Inverness itself, unless they've driven past, we've not quite tapped into the whole of Inverness yet, but we've only been open a few weeks.
Yeah.
So we need
a few weeks. In that case, you've probably done pretty well. There are businesses who've been open for a few years who probably haven't fully tapped into their local market, because a lot of the times people try and focus on the bigger picture and forget about the local market. So I think it all comes with time. So the TV, anybody who has watched This Farming Life will recognise your faces. How did that come about? How did you end up being on telly? I mean...
it was really quite fast-paced, wasn't it?
What had happened was last year we did a pop-up Christmas shop on the farm, and we opened up a play barn and had takeaway soup and coffees in the barn, and kids could play during COVID. And BBC Alba heard about it, and they came and asked if they could film us for a Gaelic programme they were doing about diversification on farms during the pandemic.
And use of social media, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were saying about our social media. And then This Farming Life put out asking for the farm in Inverness, and I think we saw the advert on social media, and I completely dismissed it, thinking, we'd never get on that. But then BBC Alba sent us all of the footage they took and said, why don't you apply for this? So I thought, I'll just press forward, and I forwarded it onto the email address and said, well, we'd be keen if you are. And it just kind of snowballed from there. I couldn't even believe they'd replied to us, to be honest.
Wow.
I think we were quite late. And it wasn't that long until they started filming from when we applied, I don't think.
Yeah, it happened really, really fast. Yeah.
And did you have any reservations about being on TV?
No, I think...
I don't think we had enough time to think about it all, really. It was just almost off the cuff, a lot of it.
Because we were really busy. And I think because we'd been filming each other for the social media, or I had been filming you, actually, that we'd become a wee bit more natural being filmed, kind of. Well, you had. I think I felt more nervous. But also, we're maybe a couple of raving idiots, and I never even thought anything about what would come of it, actually.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any reservations because I never thought about it.
Yeah, well, maybe that's good because perhaps if you'd thought about it too much, you might have started to question it. But tell us about the process. You know, most people listening have never had a film crew on their farm or been involved in television. Tell us about the process. Is it disruptive? Is it fun? You know, tell us about how it all works.
It was probably a bit different for both of us because you are working on the farm, whereas I don't essentially have a big job on the farm. I was more like being part of your farm, if that makes sense. So
I think they really wanted to catch us, and we wanted them to capture us trying to open our farm shop, and it didn't really go to plan, and they got to film it all. We had to change the plan for various reasons a few times, and we kind of got there in the end, but it wasn't what we'd planned to get there with, but we did get there.
Yeah.
So that's the journey they wanted to film from us, and they definitely got it, I think.
Yeah, they got they got a lot.
You aren't the only ones who perhaps things haven't gone the way it was anticipated. I remember with Steve Mitchell from the Buffalo farm, and he was on This Farming Life, and he had kind of steps that he wanted to be filmed, and it never worked out. It's worked out now, but it never worked out in the time frame that they all wanted, because that's life, isn't it? That's farming life.
We definitely weren't as organised as to hit these marks. We were just trying to open a farm shop.
Yeah. I find it fun though, actually, and some of the things, like I was thinking, the lambing. I'd always wanted to do a lambing on Donald's farm, but I felt intimidated by it. So then the film crew that filmed me doing the lambing were 2 women. And so actually it was 3 women together who didn't have a massive clue about farming. And I felt kind of empowered by that. I was like, it's okay. They're saying, come on, get in there. So
And so you knew more than them, which I suppose is a confidence booster.
Well, no, I didn't, because Kate, the camera woman, has been doing This Farming Life since series 2. So
I see.
she knows quite a lot about farming now from going around the farms. And at one point, your dad wasn't letting me lamb a sheep. And I was like, have you ever lambed a sheep, Kate? And she's like, yeah, I have. And I was like, that's it. I'm lambing a sheep. That's not fair. So then your dad had to just let me lamb something.
So it sounds like the film crew were a really good bunch, and almost like they became part of the wider family whilst they were there, because you must have seen a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, I think they definitely did. Towards the end, we started getting different camera crew, but in the beginning, when it was Kate, Zoe, Stephen, the original kind of camera crew, we saw quite a lot of them, and yeah, it was quite nice. It was good crack.
There's normally only 2 people, so it's not that invasive at the time. So you probably I didn't think too much about it.
Yeah,
that sounds a wee bit, but yeah.
It was like, I looked forward to them coming because it broke up the monotony of your life, and it's like, oh, it's a bit of crack, and they would laugh at things you were doing, and you thought, oh, this is good fun. So it was nice. Yeah. They often would give me a big pep talk and be like, come on, you can do this. So I quite like that too.
And I suppose the way I look at it with This Farming Life is that it has twofold benefits. Hopefully it's benefited your business by raising awareness, and we'll maybe come on to that in a minute. But it benefits because it's giving the general public a better and deeper understanding of what farming is like. And I'd love to hear your views on This Farming Life as an entire series and the benefits you think it's delivered since it's been going.
Well, I mean, for me, I always say to all my family, Donald works all the time. And I feel like people don't believe me. So for me, I was like, I want to show how much he works. And I think that was well represented in all the farms. Like, people that come into the farm shop and have seen the programme say, gosh, I was exhausted just watching you. And I think it's all quite like that. Like, Ewan and Emma, they work so hard, and you can totally see that, and you can feel it, how much of your lives are invested in it, I think, maybe.
Yeah, I agree. And just the fact that they're there so often, so nothing's staged. It's not like they're coming to get one thing. There might be things they would like to get, but I mean, you've got them for a day, so it's just kind of rolling with it, and you get a real insight quite often into farming life, I think, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and do you feel it's beneficial in terms of giving people a deeper understanding about things like, the realities of life and death on farm, the realities of meat eating and, the associated high animal welfare that we see on Scottish farms. Do you think that that's a wider benefit?
Yes. I mean, just in general, letting people see everything we do and some people's perception that we're factory farms, or the whole message can get caught up in the worldwide thing, and we're not worldwide. We're locally based. If you break it down to Scotland, even, we're such smaller scale, and we tend to have high animal welfare standards. So it's just letting people see what you're doing. And like Joanna said, especially Emma and you were talking about them at lambing time, they just looked so tired, and that's just putting across the message. And I think we look pretty tired as well. So yeah, it's just letting people see it all and what we do, and hopefully they like it.
Yeah. The people who come into your shop I know you've only been open for a couple of weeks, so you've maybe got a sort of small sample size here, but the people who've seen you on TV, what do they say when they come into the shop?
We had people in today, didn't we? They were up from Stafford, and they were saying, we've watched you on TV. And I was like, was it everything you thought it would be meeting us? And they were like, I don't know. And then within half a second, you and I had started arguing over, I don't know what we were arguing about. And then I just thought, oh God, this is just exactly as it is on TV, isn't it? It's like, I'm really sorry. You shouldn't be arguing in front of customers.
We've had people from Ireland and people from York,
people from Aberdeen.
They'd come across on a holiday, but they'd been watching it, and it's quite interesting. And it's still not properly out yet, because it will go out on BBC Two. So there'll be even more people see it then. Yeah.
Some people had said they thought it was really funny that the camera crew had managed to capture me staring gormlessly at the sheep, not knowing what to do. And I remember standing around not knowing what to do and thinking, this will all be edited out. They're not going to use footage of me standing like an idiot. It definitely comes across exactly as the situation was.
Yeah.
Wait till one goes out that we open the shop in.
Yeah, we're quite nervous about the episodes we haven't seen yet that are still to come out, because we got really, really stressed with opening the shop and running the reindeer event. And no idea what they're going to be like.
Well, actually, you've preempted my next question in a way, because it might be too early to tell, but is there any part of you that thinks, oh, crikey, what have we done by opening ourselves up for this? Because it is, this farming life is warts and all, as you've said, and that must be make you feel a bit vulnerable in a way, does it?
Well, yeah, it does.
Yeah, but I suppose Joanna's been out of her comfort zone in the first 6 that have come out, because you've been doing some things in the farm and they haven't really showed us trying to open the shop yet. But in the next 6, I think you'll see us try to open the shop and do the other things. And we're both really out of our comfort zones. It's all new. It's not when they filmed me before, I was doing things I've done for the last 15 whatever years, and it was almost easy, whereas trying to open the shop and everything that goes with it, and we had some other problems, and I think it'll be very interesting to watch.
It will. I know, and you don't know how all that's going to come across, but every day we were slammed with another problem, and that we were just rinsed by the time it got to those final episodes.
I think the funniest thing, they used GoPros quite a lot. And because we were going at 100 miles an hour when we opened the shop, we didn't realise at the back of the shop they put a GoPro on. And we didn't see it all day. So it was filming us all day, sort of caught all the arguments.
Because we thought, the camera crew have gone, this is exactly what I think of you and what you did with that. And then at the end, they were like, thanks, guys. And they climbed up and took the GoPro down, and we were both like, oh, no.
Oh, my goodness, spy cam.
Yeah, that's definitely real, that.
People are fascinated to hear about the TV journey, but I don't want to focus on it for the whole chat, because it's just an element of your life, and what you do is, no disrespect to the BBC, but what you do is far more important than a TV show, than just a TV show. Maybe this is more for you, Joanna, because maybe farming in the way that you do it at the moment is less in your blood than it is for Donald, but what is it that drives you and keeps you growing and doing new things?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I'm actually doing this course at the moment, the Rural Leaders course.
Oh, yes.
It's done a personality test. and I come up really, really high on creativity. I'm like a yellow person that is like excited by shiny things and ideas. And at the moment, I'm like, I'm loving this life because I stock what's in the shop what I want, and I plan events that I want and I find interesting. But the downside of my personality test was that it showed that I have no no blue, which basically means being serious, doing accounts, doing numbers, doing paperwork, making it real.
Yeah.
So
and finishing the projects you started, maybe sometimes.
Yeah, that's really bad. So, I mean, it's good because it's brought that to my attention, though I'm sure I already knew that. But I'm definitely driven by, I feel really, really passionate about food miles. My degree, I focused on conservation and climate change. I was a geography teacher. I only left a couple of months ago. And I was completely driven by climate change, sustainability, food miles. So that's what I was really passionate about. I taught environmental science as well. Yeah, I feel like now I'm going out and doing what I've been talking about for the last 15 years. And I feel really, really driven by that, really passionate. And it's a journey. I don't always get it right with perhaps things I'm saying or getting into the shop, but I'm constantly learning. And I think I'm really driven by that.
Yeah, like a hunger for development and new things, and you said, creative, sparkly, fun things as well. And there's nothing wrong with that because your customers will love those things too.
Hopefully. Yeah. I think a lot of it's based from education as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really. We're
educating about agricultural practices.
That's what I'm trying to say. Really poorly.
Because in the curriculum, it was really pushed in schools that cows caused climate change. And when I met Donald, my lessons had been teaching kids to the exam that say cows create loads of methane through flatulence, 1 mark. And Donald's like, what is this? And I was showing him this video showing about a factory-intensive farm in America. And he's like, but that's not what British farming is. And I felt like that was pushed so heavily in the curriculum. So then I scrapped all my farming lessons, and Donald helped me make up new, more relevant ones. And I started really teaching that, hold on, what are cows doing? And I researched it so much, and then really became all about a local sustainable diet. And especially where we live in Inverness, meat is part of that diet, because for us at the moment, to have vegan things in the shop is so difficult, really, really difficult, and impossible to get anything locally other than seasonal veg.
Yeah, you have your seasonal veg, but to take stuff from further afield.
Yeah. What would you say, your message to kind of the average consumer who troops into Tesco's and buys maybe some tofu and some Kenyan green beans for their supper? What would be your message for them if you had an open platform?
Do you know, mine is that's fine. If you want to eat that, eat that. Just know where it came from. And do you know where that came from? I mean, I don't even know what tofu is, if I'm honest. What is in that? Lots of these things. It has a heap of ingredients. Where does it come from? It's got things I'd never heard of. And would I want to give my children these chemicals? I don't actually know what they are or where they come from. So I think if you can say what's in your foods and know where it comes from, crack on. Read the ingredients on the back of everything you buy. And if you can't pronounce the ingredient, don't buy it.
The ins and outs of it, I think, just need a wee bit addressing. It's big companies that stand to make a lot of money from these processed vegan foods. They're just a bit off. And we don't really have a voice that can combat them.
Yeah, I have a bit of a bee in my bonnet about that too, particularly in January, because I think if somebody wants to be vegan for a month, then that's their choice. But why choose January? Because everything they eat pretty much has got to be imported. But if they chose a summer month, there's so much more seasonal Scottish produce that they could eat if they chose not to eat meat for that month. And yet there doesn't seem to be any thought behind it. I'm involved with the Royal Highland Education Trust as well, and they're going to love everything that you've just said, because it is so important to not just to educate. Sometimes is a patronising word, and we don't mean it this way, but it's important to educate children, but also teachers. As you said, you just didn't know the truth before you met Donald, and now you do. And there'll be plenty of teachers out there who are just labouring under a misapprehension of no fault of their own, but we need to get that message out. And if you're helping the people who come through meet your business to have a deeper understanding, then goodness, you need a round of applause as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I do think for me that's the biggest thing. And it's something we talk about every day now on our social media. And it was something in the classroom I was saying to the children, and they would come back and say, my mum and dad say, though, blah, 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 blah. And I was getting more and more fired up about it, I think.
Yeah. And actually, you are making a great contribution to raising awareness amongst the public about these things by being on the television. And I'm sure you'll be very diplomatic here, but do you think this farming life could do more to get messages that you would like them to out to the general public?
The biggest viewing figures are Manchester and London.
Oh, yeah. Is it not Birmingham and London?
Is it Birmingham? Oh, I thought it was Manchester and London.
I'm sure it's Birmingham and
They
London.
will be. I mean, I don't know the stats, but I'm sure that they will have pretty hefty popularity in urban areas because there is that kind of fascination amongst people to see what it's like.
Yeah, it's hard for us because we hang about with rural people. We're in a rural area. So
yeah.
It's very hard to know at the moment. The programme's only really gone out in Scotland, hasn't it? And on BBC Scotland so far. So I don't actually have a clue.
Changing the subject very slightly, I understand from your Instagram that you're tenant farmers where you farm. I'm really fascinated by what you're doing because I think a lot of tenant farmers shy away from investing in their business because they feel as though it's not theirs and they're afraid to make that investment. But you've obviously thought, well, actually, this is about what we want and our future. We're just going to go for it. Did you have any qualms along those lines, or have I just asked you a really silly question?
I think it's just basically our location is amazing, so why not? To the point that Inverness, if it jumps again, it might end up in some of our land. So having a farm shop so close to a city, why not? And we're very very grateful. Our landlord, he stays here, he's got his big estate house here and stuff, but he's very supportive of this. And they've always wanted a farm shop on his land up here. So we're just very lucky. We have a really good working relationship with them, I think, I hope. So, yeah, it's just, we're just lucky, in all honesty.
So I'm hoping that our podcast will still be going on a weekly basis in 5 years' time. So if I bring the two of you back onto the podcast in 5 years' time, what would you hope to be saying to me?
I think you better come back to about 2 years or maybe even 1 year. Joanna's got lots of plans. We both do, actually. What would you be saying in 5 years' time? That will be interesting.
Well, I would hope we've got a bigger farm shop with more local produce. Some of the things it's very hard to get locally because people don't make them. But I think by 5 years' time, all of these things will be being made locally. And hopefully that food trend will continue. You know, since COVID, I think people are wanting to know where their food comes from. So I hope there's going to be even more food kind of available in these parts. You know, like I've been speaking to a local Italian restaurant who are keen to make dried pasta for our shop. You know, that's not something you can get at the moment in this area. So I think that would be cool. I'd like to have a shop big enough you can push a trolley around it and get things like that. And have a cafe, even if it's still just a takeaway, where people are getting hot food that has all been grown and produced on our farm.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And
then what about the educational... A play park, yeah. What about the educational side of things then? What would be your 5 year kind of goals as far as that's concerned?
Well, I would hope that seasonally we could be having groups of schools and children and parents coming and engaging in an active working farm. So being able to go and see the lambing live, being able to see calving, being able to take part in growing food as well, like active kind of vegetable patches and gardens and things.
And then I've got a slightly different question for you. I would love to get goats, and I know you've got goats. I wonder if you could tell my husband through the medium of this podcast why it's so amazing to be the owner of goats.
I will take this one, and your husband's going to hate me. What's his name?
Willie.
I was very sceptical. The goats coming home were nothing to do with me, but I love them now. They aren't that far off having a dog, I would almost say. They've got so much personality.
It's a low-maintenance dog, yeah.
Wow.
And like at first they always tried to escape, didn't they? Like it was just a nightmare. Now, actually, you don't need to even pen them in because they're like dogs. They just want to go around where you are, see what's happening. They forage, so they're eating all the weeds and things around the farm. And they're so happy and so cheery. It's so lovely.
So hopefully in 5 years' time we can compare notes about goat ownership.
Yay. Although I think we'd like some milking goats. I do think our goats are pretty useless.
In 5 years' time, you'll probably have 20 goats.
You'll have local communities coming and milking goats. That's where I'll be in 5 years' time.
Amazing. Thank you to Donald and to Joanna. That was really interesting to hear their story, and I hope that we can go back and hear about all the developments up there near Inverness. I'm off to start Googling goats, following their excellent advice. Meantime, that's about it from us this week. But if you know anybody else like Donald and Joanna who's got a really fascinating story to tell, please get in contact with us through social media. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at @on_farm_UK. And if we like your idea, we will send you a free mug. So, gosh, that's an incentive and a half, isn't it? But no, we'd love to hear from you because we want to talk to more people and hear their real life stories. That's it really from this week. The On Farm podcast is brought to you by the team at Scene&HerdPR and Marketing. So get in touch with us if you need any help with any of your communications, whether it's building a brand and a website through to social media or obviously podcasting. Do get in touch, and we will see you again next week.